Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another wonderful installment of NPCs All. My name is Derek.
Sorry, I'm Luke. I got distracted. One more time. I'm Luke.
And my name's Rob.
And the topic of today is going to be retro gaming versus next-gen gaming. Gentlemen, what have we been playing as of late? Anything fun?
So recently, I got back into Halo Infinite multiplayer. 343, I don't think it's any secret that 343 has been kind of dropping the ball with how they've been handling the Halo series. So I thought, they're supposed to be dropping the Battle Royale soon. They're dropping more content as of lately. I love the game itself. The game's great, but the past couple months has been kind of a drought. So I got back into that, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. Always a lot of fun playing Halo. Mm-hmm. I don't think you can go wrong, except 4 and 5, which you can't go wrong with. But so that's what I've been doing this week.
Fantastic. How about yourself?
I've got kind of a left field one for you. Do you know Adventure Capitalist? You do, clearly.
No, I don't.
No.
The name
okay, so it's a phone game.
Strikes me.
It's one of those like clicker games where you click it, you buy a bunch of stuff, then you let it sit for like 12 hours, go back, click it for like 5 minutes. I've been playing this game for maybe two and a half years. It was like a COVID game for me, and I beat it last week. It took me 2.5 years, every day of clicking things and buying things.
That's dedication.
It was too much, but that's what I've.
Because I remember I played like the cookie clicker game.
Yeah, same
like
thing.
where you click like
premise.
the cookies and it just keeps going up and up. Yeah.
Yep.
But I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah,
into that.
It was just an addiction. I don't know what caused it, but 2 years later, I got all the trophies. I beat the game.
You platinumed it?
There
you go.
Well, fantastic. I'm glad that you crushed the COVID mobile game. Cheers, man.
Hey, mobile gaming is gaming. Anyone out there who's like level 112 on Candy Crush, you belong on this podcast too. Gaming is gaming. They clearly don't agree.
That's a controversial topic.
Yeah.
Talk about,
Maybe that's another day.
That's another day.
I'll leave it.
But hey, mobile gaming is mobile gaming. I mean, I played Fallout. What's that? Vault.
Yeah.
Vault something. Vault Survivor or whatever. That was a fun game. I think it's the only mobile game I ever put like a lot of time into, and that and Angry Birds, and maybe Flappy Bird because I'm a pleb. But
see. Mobile gaming.
All right, so maybe he's got a point. For me, gaming-wise, Halo Infinite I've been seeing on Twitter a lot. Been putting out a lot of new content, like I think the whole new grenade and a few other things. I'm a Halo baby.
Me too.
Yeah. I love that game to death. And you're totally right. 4 to 5 needed help. You took away co-op away from us. Like, how could you do that? Before, not so much, but 5. What a slap in the face. What a slap in the face. It was rough. Mech Assault 5. A Mech Warrior 5. That's what it is. Mech Warrior 5. I've been playing a lot of. I'm not sure if you guys remember those games, but you get to pilot these giant mechs that you get to customize.
I've seen it before, yeah.
Oh, it is so much fun, but it's 4-player co-op, and I got a chance to play with my brothers and whatnot. And there's nothing better than going back to that, like playing 2 from like the original Xbox and like getting back to that camaraderie. It was so much fun. So when you're stomping around as these giant mechs, and they do cockpit view, so it's like
that's awesome.
You're very much like in the robot, and like you can't move. Some of the robots move ridiculously quick. Some of them are ridiculously slow, but they pack a mean punch. The game is phenomenal. The environments are great. The mech battles are a bunch of fun, and it's consistent replay value because the map is massive. The star systems are massive.
Is it similar to Titanfall?
I wouldn't compare it to Titanfall.
No?
Titanfall mechs, it's like Mech Assault Warrior mechs on crack, like their ability to move around quick. Yeah. The gunfight feels a lot more like an FPS, where this feels like yes, it's an FPS, but at the exact same time you can do it in third person, and it's a lot more tacticalness that comes into it because with Titanfall you don't got to worry about batteries, you don't got to worry about ammunition or anything else like that.
That's like a battlefield / like giant robot.
Pretty much.
So
yeah, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and that's what I've been playing as of late.
So we're talking retro versus next gen. And next gen is easy because that's actually kind of current gen, right? PS5, Xbox 17, whatever it is. Nintendo Switch, like that's next gen in my opinion. What's retro? Because the three of us sitting here, retro is what? Wii and earlier.
Wow, that's even I'm a sage.
I would agree that it's getting to the point where Wii is starting to be looked at as in the retro world. That I feel like is like the line right now. I feel like
is it though?
It's SD.
I feel like it's Wii and before, even though it doesn't feel like it because we grew up with it and it doesn't seem like that long ago. But just thinking the time we are distance from the Wii right now, when the Wii was out, that was like NES and like Sega Genesis. So like that's like a huge like
I'm so old.
It's like a big jump. And so yeah, I'm counting like GameCube, PlayStation, PS2's kind of.
Let's just count it for the rules. PS2 counts.
Yeah, I'll have to say PS2 counts. Game Boy Advance, DS, all that stuff. I'm personally counting retro, but it's not like NES retro, but I think it's retro.
Yeah, I feel like, do we have the definition of retro at hand?
I can.
Could you Google that real quick? Because like to me, if the change from regular CD to Blu-ray disc, massive, because you could put so much more content on a game. Period. And if we're gonna attack that, that's PlayStation 3.
Yep.
That is the beginning and the birth of it, because still even Xbox 360 was still just using CD based stuff.
Okay, I don't have like a definition, but there is a list of retro games, and the first one's Pac-Man. The second one is the God of War saga on the PS3. So I think we're actually being a little more lenient with this definition.
Okay, all right, yeah. So, I mean, for me, I guess the definition would be like right at PlayStation 3, everything else before that is retro. For me, because I think that we're still using Blu-ray disc to have these games. Still on PlayStation 5 for the new Xboxes, and I mean, technically it's SD cartridges for the Switch, but the expanse of how much space you can put on an SD card nowadays, I mean, there's literally chips you can put 3 terabytes on as of now. Like, that just came out. So, like, I can only imagine that that's going to get bigger and bigger, and more games are going to be able to get smaller and smaller and be put inside of a console. Yep. I think retro, for me, it's just the Blu-ray disc, because that was, like, the next step in technology to make games bigger. And, wow. The God of War saga?
God of War saga.
Christ, that's PlayStation 3, so like even then, I mean, technically that my Blu-ray disc mentality is obsolete.
I like that. I think for us, let's stick with that.
Yeah.
Retro games had small teams, right? GoldenEye had a team of like 7 people who had never worked on a game before, and they went to the set and just took pictures of walls, and that became the game. Like, it was just like this. You could feel it was a creative team, and their creation is what came out of it. Where now you have a team of 500 people. Or even more. Like at crunch time, there's so many people working on games. And does that, obviously more people can create a better looking game, mechanics can be tighter, all that stuff, but do you lose that kind of intimate game that you used to get with retro games where you really felt like it was the creator's vision? Like in a modern game that does it, definitely God of War. Mm-hmm. God of War feels like 7 people made it, but with a team of 500 people doing the graphics and the mechanics. Like, it's as tight as a modern game, but it's got that, intimate story feeling.
Yeah.
So do you feel like new games are... Actually, I'll spin it this way, because there's new games that are small, that are trying to be like retro games. Mm-hmm. I doubt Shovel Knight had that many people working on it.
Very true. Or Jump King or something like that.
Yeah. So does the small team help, or do these big games, AAA games, are they superior products?
I mean, that goes for your customer base at the end of the day, because so many people do strive for simple games. Like I played a game recently I downloaded that was free off of Game.io, which is just literally Anger Foot. That's all it is. You just run around with a guy. The only thing you can do is kick, but like you kick down doors, you kick people into oblivion. Like that sounds awesome. It's a great game, and like it is so much fun. It's a very simple game, but that only had probably like 10 to 12 people working on that game. But like the concept of the fact that it's you got speed running, so if you enjoy speed runs, you got to get through it in a certain amount of time. You unlock things from there, and then it's a very simplistic game that involves humor and action, and you're kicking like dinosaurs and a bunch of other stuff, and like fish people. And when you die, they like dance on your corpse. Like it is a bunch of fun. That in itself is great, but like I think that a AAA game, like something like God of War or Forbidden Horizon or any of those games, Uncharted games or whatever, you are knowing what you're getting yourself into when you purchase those types of games, and I think the magic that gets done with those, there's only so much direction you can go ahead and give to these types of games. You know that you're telling a linear story, you're getting the graphics, the artistic direction, and everything else too. But are you giving the people that experience that is so unique that makes them want to continue back to those games? And the answer is yes. I mean, at the end of the day, they're putting all this work into it. You're going to end up buying these games, or you could be heavily disappointed through whatever other game you decide to go ahead and pick up. But I think that's a very interesting question. Do you have input?
One of the things I've noticed about the AAA 500-person teams versus teams of much lesser men on hand or people is, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like every time a game comes out now, it'll come out and it's incomplete. Every time a game comes out, it is always incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
Halo Infinite, incomplete. They're still releasing stuff 2 years later with, I think it's finally getting co-op campaign, like, soon.
Yeah.
At some point. Battle Royale was supposed to be with the base game. 2 years, still, that's almost coming out. Games like Fallout 76 was like a disaster when that dropped. One of the biggest disasters of recent memory.
What a waste of $60.
Yeah,
pre-ordered the HD collection of it too. Like they got the most expensive one.
I didn't mean to give you PTSD.
I'm just losing my mind. No, that game rubbed me wrong. Cyberpunk 2077, same deal.
Cyberpunk. So it seems like just because they have the number of people to work on it that can produce these beautiful, great games, they always have issues, and it's really annoying because thinking back even to like the 360 PS3 era, I can't remember many games that came out where I was like, wow, this is broken, wow, this is incomplete, wow, this is having issues. Even like some of the mainstream stuff like Call of Duty, like when Call of Duty's come out, something's like super broken, one of the guns just one shot someone and it's not supposed to, and like they have to do like an emergency like patch or like
more PTSD.
And another, speaking of Call of Duty, close to it is Battlefield
2042. Talked about this the first podcast.
And that I didn't buy it. That seemed like it was a disaster. So like
absolutely a disaster.
These huge studios have so much resources. Maybe not all the time in the world, but they have so many people, resources to work on these games, and they just always feel incomplete and broken when they come out. Versus games, PlayStation 2, Xbox 360 that came out, and I never looked at. Well, I'm sure there's plenty of examples, but in my opinion, I didn't have as many issues with playing games back then as I do now.
Yeah.
Now it's the first week a game comes out, they have to patch something.
Or the servers blow.
The servers or something wrong. Like I remember GTA, when GTA 5 came out, I couldn't play multiplayer for a week because the servers were just so trash.
Yeah.
Because of the amount of people trying to play. But you know, it's great the games we're getting now because they're just they keep moving a step ahead. But when it releases, it feels like we're moving 10 steps backwards.
Agreed.
So it's, I don't know. That's my gripe. That's my biggest gripe with modern day gaming.
Yeah. And I do want to just for the audience, I do want to bring up that it's not the developers as much as it's just having a big team where then marketing is going to have their opinion,
right.
CEO is going to have their opinion. You know, it's developers are gamers.
Yeah.
Like most developers can talk games better than we can. Should be able to at least.
I would hope.
Yeah. Like the problem with the big teams, in my opinion at least, is just simply that you have so many people whose opinions are Cyberpunk 76 or whatever the year was.
77.
It's
1942.
The game, all the developers kept saying it's an empty world, no one's gonna like it, and the people at the top kept saying no, they want the biggest map possible. We want a map bigger than GTA. We want a map bigger than Fortnite.
Keanu Reeves.
Yes, we want Keanu Reeves everywhere.
More Keanu Reeves.
And you know, if it was up to the developers, they would have said, no, we're gonna focus and make this town, strong and all this stuff. But then there's that other 90% of things they probably wouldn't do because it's just not what they want. The marketing team, Fortnite is so successful because of the Battle Pass. Mm-hmm. It is not a developer's idea. I don't know that for a fact, but I would bet money on it. Yeah. But I do want to just kind of give that separation of just, it's not the developers as much as the system.
Yeah, I think, because, to be fair, it's fair, like you said, that people are gamers, that people themselves and whatnot too, and we're all human, we all have opinions, we all have things we want to go ahead and fuel into things. I think that when you have certain teams that are very much gauged on one thing, and they hyper-focus on that one thing to make that experience better for the gamer at the end of the day, I think is more rewarding as a process. Yeah. I think that something like, even a big team, and again, like I said, direction of thought process, even something like game-defining bugs don't technically ruin a game. Like, you would take something like Elder Scrolls 6 Skyrim, 5 Skyrim. Is it 5? 5? Yes?
Yeah, I think 5.
Yeah, it's 5.
Yep.
Skyrim. That game when it first came out, oh my god. Like, when you played the game, it was fantastic. The environment was great. The combat was awesome. Everything about the game was absolutely fantastic. But the bugs on it were ridiculous. Right. Like getting smacked by a giant, being sent 375 feet into the air, jettisoned into space, or you got your NPC that like tries to follow you and can't follow you into certain things. You end up losing the NPC forever because they're in a cave they can't get out of. Like, there was definitely a lot of different bugs that were not necessarily game defining, but they were there. But the experience of the game itself trumped everything. Fallout 76. Battlefield 2042, Cyberpunk 2077, and a bunch of other games that are bound to come out in the future that are probably going to have the same issue. Yep. Saints Row, that just came out.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Here, that's having a long
it's having way, like the fact that you shoot a gun and it's like the reticles on them and it's firing all around them like you're playing a Call of Duty game shooting from the hip. Like, doesn't make any sense. There is definitely hyper-focus that needs to happen when it comes to a concept of a game, and if it's not capitalized on, it doesn't work. Skyrim won it because of the fact that they knew they were getting an adventure game. They were putting you in the shoes of being a Dragonborn. Like, that was what it was. But I agree with you completely that the size of a team needs to have a mentality that is strictly pointed, because if it's not pointed, it's not going to work well, because you're going to have conflict of interest and people are going to think they want to put something into something else and they don't want to put all their energy into that or find out the proper tools or solutions to the problems necessary to create a game of that caliber. So I think at the end of the day, smaller teams, I think, make better games than bigger teams. That's just a personal opinion.
I think I agree with that statement too.
I gotta address the
EA elephant on the roof. On the roof.
We didn't let him in the studio.
Well, that's because we're trying to reinvent Studio B, which is not a zoo anymore. Now he's upstairs just having a goddamn party. He invited the giraffes. He invited the lions. He invited the entire elephant family. There's a rhinoceros up there. They don't even pay rent. There's construction happening upstairs. So if you hear the gentle rumble of an angry god, you know it. Right, God?
God's quiet today.
I prayed and everything.
When we go back to like NES games, they were very limited in bits and pixels, and they had to be very artistic. Mario's design, almost all designs back then are so are iconic because you had to be able to tell the character in like 16 little squares of color. Mm-hmm. And then as it goes on, you get more artistic kind of styles, and then now we have realism. And there's obviously incredible artistic games, but it seems like the drive is realism.
Yeah.
And so is next gen starting to lose that artistic drive to the art style itself? Or do we see just them both happening? We have that realistic and we have that artistic.
Yeah. I think every big company has a big art team, to do digital art and everything else too, to really be able to produce what the game is going to look like for the people to develop it and make it look the way that it does. I think that simplicity, again, plays into artistic value, especially back then, because you were so limited. You have limitations. And I think that because of limitations, you only can be able to explore so much. So as an artist, you already know where you can go, where it's nowadays, it's endless. You can do so much. I mean, like I said, we were talking about before, Unreal Engine 5 and all the other different developing engines that are coming out, like, those games, like, just the demo from Unreal Engine 5 was just utterly jaw-dropping. Like, from cascading lights to different shadows to having water being able to share reflections like off of the water and actually see it on the bottom, like there's a technical word there, but I'm just not thinking with my brain. It is beautiful to see what gaming is going to come to. Realism is important. I think that if
Raycasting?
Is ray tracing as
Ray
well.
tracing.
Yeah, ray tracing
Ray
and
tracing.
DLSS and whatnot that makes the games look absolutely beautiful, makes lighting and reflection off of puddles and everything else too. But there's it's a certain, it's like a refraction or something like that. There's a word I'm looking for that is just not coming to mind. It's down below right here because I'm gonna find it out eventually and putting it in post. So I'm just that smart. You brought up soundtrack, and I'm not gonna lie. Retro guy. I hope that's a question because I'm not gonna lie. There's definitely a moment of time where it was like the music in games were like a main reason to go back and play a level.
Yes,
like if I went back and played the first Crash Bandicoot level, like I knew for a fact, like I was getting dun 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 dun. Like I was about to lose my mind, and then nothing better than sound direction too. To get a mask. And the song you get when you get all three. There's just something about musical direction when it comes to like these games that just kept me coming back just as much as the gameplay
I think the
did.
Spyro series 1, 2, 3 is my favorite soundtracks of all time.
I'm gonna bring up a movie example of what you're talking about because a lot of people, the Avengers, the first few, wasn't music heavy. Whenever there was a cool song in the background, you'd hear people talking over. There'd be like an announcer on the speaker or something. It's like you just didn't get to enjoy the music. And if you go and watch the later ones, the two, the big ones, the Endgame and the other one, you'll notice the theme, the Avengers theme, is constant. They love bringing that up at those cool moments. And then you see it later in like Free Guy. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a moment where you hear the Avengers theme, and you're like, okay, I before even seeing it, I know what's going on. That's a leitmotif. And I feel like that's missing a lot, especially a leitmotif, I don't know if people know, is just when you replay music to the point where it has associated meaning. So like anytime a character shows, Darth Vader has his theme. Every time he shows up, you hear his theme. So then you don't even need to see him. If you hear it, you can go, oh, that's the dark side. You know it's coming. And I feel like that's missing from games now, and that's something retro games really harped on, was having those really memorable, just melodies that stick in your head.
I think my favorite actual band's, I guess, soundtrack from a game is
He's doing it. He's doing it.
Sonic Adventure 2.
He's doing it. He's done it. He's done it.
Racing around at the speed of sound. Got places to go. Gotta follow my rainbow.
This game, honestly, like the music in it, like I legit still listen to songs from this in my car. I'll be driving and I'm like, I want to listen to Escape from the City. Or
it's on my jogging track.
I love this. I honestly think this is the best Sonic game ever made. I think this is the best Sonic soundtrack ever made. And Sonic has great soundtracks. I think it's well known that the Sonic series always has awesome music.
Absolutely.
I think honestly, over 1,000+ hours into this game,
I can say that respectfully.
Chow Garden, just doing the 2-player.
I'd put easily over 2,000 to that.
Yeah, easy.
You want to talk about soundtrack? Fantastic. The game is a testament to time. It's been re-released on, I think we were talking about, re-released on 4 to 5 different consoles. Dreamcast, GameCube, and Xbox.
Xbox 360, then the One, and then it jumped to the Series X.
Yep.
So.
And you can play it all on there, and it's beautiful.
Chow Garden was that was where I played.
Yeah.
And I played so many hours, and then I got a corrupt file. And if anyone remembers on the GameCube, there were 2 separate files. One for the normal game, which I had beat, 100%ed, and then the Chow Garden. It was a separate file. I deleted the Sonic Adventure file, hoping that was the problem. It was the Chow Garden.
Oh.
So I had to delete both and lost hundreds of hours.
God.
That is detriment. Yeah, that is a detriment to your childhood.
You got these chows, you named them. I would see the same chow over the whole week, and it was just raising
a child. It was raising a child.
Child.
As a father, it was raising a child. All right.
In the early 2000s, for us, that's how it felt or a pet. But
that you made fight other childs.
Or
then you put them in a fight club, and you
could have gone pet, and you said no. It was like a child.
Child you can put in a fight club.
I'm telling all your children.
Or forced to race. We were great fathers, all of us.
Oh, yeah.
We're great fathers.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I was Shadow when I got an egg, and they were like, "Oh, I found out you can make an evil chow."
Yep.
I was like, "Oh," and I got a new brown egg. Grabs egg, whips it at the wall, beats the child until it hates me, and I'm like, "That's right, let the hate fuel you, give you power."
I have the edge. Shadow the Hedgehog. Eat the wall, Shadow.
Bad parents. I don't do this to my children at home. I promise.
As often.
As often. There's a lot of great music in those games, and again,
Yeah.
that's not even just coming off of the fact of being nostalgia. That it has a test of time. Like,
Right.
if that's on my workout soundtrack too, then I don't care.
Yeah.
That is wonderful.
I know me and Luke have talked off camera before about Banjo-Kazooie. And
We've actually never talked off camera.
Oh.
I've never met this man before in my life. Don't let him lie to you.
Sorry, I'm just trying to seem like I have friends.
I feel like a big shift was, I think it was Call of Duty 4. Hans Zimmer did the soundtrack. Was that 4?
Yes.
Yeah. So beautiful, is brilliant. It works for, especially what they're trying to do is create a war movie. I think some scenes in that game were like more accurate than history books because they took like both sides of the war and actually like figured out what happened. Like, there was some cool stuff and it did really well. But then suddenly every Call of Duty game sounded like a Hans Zimmer soundtrack, and it was all this kind of ethereal kind of stuff that, you know, there was nothing that really drove you and reminded you and brought you back to that level.
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of changed games where it started to move more towards that, you know, cinematic soundtrack.
And you're totally right, because most of the game soundtracks nowadays are movie soundtracks.
Yeah.
Like I
And
could
beautifully made.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, shoot. I mean, you could take any of the...
Shut up!
We needed that for branding! It's our paycheck! Shoot the giraffe! He's been eating all the eucalyptus outside I planted 3 months ago!
Pokemon Sapphire, Ruby, Emerald version is my personal favorite generation Pokemon game, and I think
Giraffe is gone too.
Finally!
I think he agrees.
Yeah.
I think that was him agreeing. He dropped dead. He was like, I can't believe you just pulled that out.
Did he just say Pokemon? I love Pokemon!
We gotta stop getting elderly animals on the roof.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what's wrong with us.
If you want more mountain madness with your Arc Sage on top of this peak, consider heading over to my Twitch channel of the same name. Atop Derek Mountain. I stream 3 days out of the week where you can find me playing FPS pew-pews.
I mean, I never took film school in any capacity, so I only know.
Oh my god!
Roleplay on Red M and 5M servers,
Dailies. What does that even mean?
and a bunch of other variety content as well. Also, I exist on these platforms too, so if you want to stay in the loop, I'll see you there. Thanks again for watching and for having the willpower to